What's up, alumni? Welcome to After 4, your podcast for navigating life after graduation. I'm your host, John Steele. Here I am back on my ugly couch, but I have a different guest with me for this kind of different take on an episode that we're doing this time around. Before we dive into that, though, the guest is here with me to start off. Lydia, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, so glad to be back.
Yes. Yeah, always awesome to have a return guest. You and I got to chat. I guess it was like right around a year ago this time, I think, that we hung out talking about
like April.
Navigating what it's like to navigate a life in the arts professionally, what that experience has been like for you. We'll be sure to link that episode in the show notes so people can go back and keep getting to know Lydia and hearing some of your story. Lydia, you would have done an introduction for us there. We'll do a slightly different one here, and then I'll join you afterwards and give a little portion of this as well for myself that people haven't heard. But Lydia, as you introduce yourself for us, I have 3 questions for you to ask. One is, what was your InterVarsity alma mater? 2, what is it that you do now? And 3, what is a song that dominated your post-graduation playlist?
Lydia, I went to Juilliard for 2 degrees, so I was super involved with InterVarsity there for about 6 years.
Awesome.
I'm now a professional opera singer and theater performer, in addition to being a private voice teacher. So between gigs, I have an awesome studio of singers that I teach. And lastly, I was looking through my Spotify last night at like my liked songs, like chronologically, where would I have been when I liked this? I think a worship one stood out a lot. A song called "Christ Be Magnified," which seems timely. It's like, oh well, I'm going out into the world, like let's glorify Jesus with what I do. I love that song.
Yeah.
But secondly, I think like Ben Rector's "Kids," or like all of his nostalgic ones, like we were kids back then, like just looking back over my graduation, just stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Remind me when it was that you graduated. This helps give us maybe a little bit of a timeline here for when those songs would have been playing.
Yeah. 2022 is when I finished my master's.
2022. Okay. All right. So that's not that long ago. All right, great. Perfect. The song that I would have been listening to is probably certainly much older, and I would imagine a lot more obscure. I was listening to this song when I graduated and had moved to Minnesota for my grad work in particular, and this like played all the way through those 2 years and after as well. There's this song by Matt Wertz. I don't know if people have heard of Matt Wertz, but he has a song called "I Will Not Take My Love Away," and that was one that like, oh man, just carried me through a lot of really difficult moments. Like a couple of the lines here from this song is, let's see here. When striving, I will not leave you all alone. When striving leads you far from home, and there's no yield for what you've sown, I will not leave you all alone. And for somebody who was like existing far away from home, or at least farther away than I had ever been for that kind of stretch of time, and there were a number of things that just were not quite falling into place as I thought that they would. Those words right there were very timely for me, and I was just like listening to that song on repeat. And it's one that still pops in my head every now and then that I'm like, oh, I still need those words today. So yeah, it's interesting the songs we carry with us.
Yeah. That makes me think of when I first moved to New York, I felt the same way. Like I'm from Kentucky, small town, I'm in this big city. And I loved it. I was like, this feels like home. But Kentucky always felt like home. And I remember being like worshiping over like Christmas break and being like, Lord, where's my home? And he said, come to my arms, my child. You're home, right? I'm home. Wherever I am, you're home. And that was like, okay. Because my life, takes me all kinds of different directions. But knowing that like wherever I am, I'm home. Oop, my earpod.
Yeah.
But wherever he is, I'm home. So.
Yeah. Wow. That's a good word. As we think about, we actually have a series that's going to be coming up in a few weeks here that's talking about some big questions, and one of those is like, where should I live after graduation? Should I stay where I am? Should I go? Like, should I move? And like that, even just that question, that thought right there of wherever God is, like as long as the two of us are together, I'm home. Like I'm good to go. And that's a really fantastic word for sure, Lydia. Right there, I love that. So Lydia, you're joining us for an interesting, I don't know, couple of experimental episodes here. What we're doing is not novel. It's just different for After 4. And it's the middle of the summer. You know, our life rhythms are a little different. And there's interesting music and movies that are like always going on in the middle of the summer. And so being somebody who has spent a lot of time at Juilliard, who is still doing a lot with music today, I felt like you are somebody who thinks differently about music. And so I would be really interested for us to get to chat together about one of these like really popular songs that's playing today. And, so I looked at I jumped onto my Spotify and I looked at the Billboard Hot 100, and I saw that at the top of that chart is this song called Ordinary, which I had never heard before. But I was like, okay, this seems really interesting. It's been on the Billboard Hot 100 for 16 weeks. It's spent 7 weeks at the number 1 position, and it's been 13 weeks at the top of the UK's singles. So it's clearly like it's making a big splash, like all across the world here. So I thought, like, hey, let's listen to this song. Let's talk about it together. Hey, if you're anything like me and you hadn't heard the song Ordinary before, then pause right here, go to the show notes, click the YouTube link, watch the music video, and then come on back. You'll be nice and ready for our conversation. So pause, listen, come back. I'll see you in there. Fun song. I really like that. Now I've listened to it a few times since we first started talking about doing this conversation together. I guess maybe just to I don't think I stated very clearly even the broader purpose of why we're doing this. But you know, outside of like new music dropping and just being like, sometimes we can sort of latch onto a song and maybe not even be thoughtful or considering why. Like, what is it that really speaks to me about this song? Or is it that it's just catchy for some reason and I'm giving it no other thought whatsoever? And so I'm thinking about our alumni who are in their first year of life after graduation. It's a time where I think a lot of the time you're doing a lot of searching. There's a lot of questions you're asking. You're looking for input. You're looking for comfort. You're looking for familiarity. And as I listen to this song, there's like terminology that feels very familiar. Like there's a lot of church Christian imagery. Obviously there's a love story being told here that's really impactful and powerful. So anyway, I think that's partly why I'm very interested in hearing some of your thoughts or talking together about like what's going on in this song and what is it that we're taking in when we listen to this song that's been popular for quite some time now. Before we get into maybe the deeper themes of what's happening here, I'd be really interested to know, and I'm sure that you could like spend an entire episode talking about sort of this particular element just because of your training and the ear that you have. Let's talk just a little bit about like even just structurally or what we're listening to. Do you have thoughts on what it is that makes the song popular just as a musical experience?
Yeah, I mean, God, the chorus is super catchy, right? I hadn't heard this like personally, but I hear it in the grocery and the restaurant and you recognize it over and over and over and over. So like, I mean, that obviously is an earworm that is, whether you like it or not, it's going to be in your head. So, and the chorus, obviously, like in any pop song, it's like verse, chorus, and then they have a lot of chorus at the end of this. So you just hear that a lot. So I figure that's like an earworm people get tied to and like know it. But I also think, I think as a like singer, my thing when it comes to music is the storytelling of it all. So I love singer-songwriters and things because of that, because it's telling me a story, not just like, a general theme. And I think this is very story oriented, like it's very poetic, which I don't think you get a lot from pop music as much as say even like rap music can sometimes be super poetic, but this feels like beautiful poetry in a sense. But I also think it's super relatable, especially in America, where it's like so easy to feel like everything's ordinary and nothing ever happens. And I was watching the music video just now when we listened, and it's like him in a laundromat folding laundry, right? It's just like he's folding laundry and he sees the girl, and then he leaves the laundromat to like meet her, and he goes into the woods, and then he goes into the ocean. It's all these like nature
Wow.
Mother Nature, like grandeur things that I think speaks to even the text we're talking about, like the biblical stuff. It's like, oh, that's God, right? You see God in his majesty. So I thought that was, I think that's super relatable. Like, oh, this is all just the same every day. I'm going through the motions. But like if I could find someone who would make everything magical, or make everything worth something, I feel like that's super relatable.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love that, the sort of the juxtaposition of the ordinary and the extraordinary. Or I guess he says something so out of the ordinary. But they setting those things even in the music video sort of side by side. I was even thinking about like the structure, or not necessarily like the structure, but even just the pacing of the way that the music changes. It's like that you don't go more than 10 seconds without a significant shift in what's happening, like bringing in those big sort of downbeat drums that happen, or it sort of feels like in the chorus almost goes like into this kind of halftime, but then it also has those like triplets on the I mean, it almost sounds like a ukulele or something like that instrument that's going like most of the way through it, and the way it's sort of layered on something that like rhythmically feels a little bit different. But you've got these pretty consistent changes that I wonder if that kind of keeps your interest, like, oh, something just changed. Oh, something just changed. And you're not just waiting for a verse to a chorus change. And if even some of that is sort of like capturing attention without us even recognizing, like, oh gosh, there's some of these just instrument changes that are happening that like, oh, it brings me right back in. My attention is caught again.
Right. Yeah. And I think you saying that, like looking at just the chorus specifically, I think it's a big rhythm thing, like you're talking about, like the way that he outlines the text. You're taking me out of the ordinary. I want laying me down till we're dead and buried. So like he's got this like, and then like slowly, and then he'll go to like a fast paced, the angels of the clouds are jealous, know me now, something out of the ordinary. So it's just, totally. I think that's what you're.
Yeah. I love that yes, even the sort of the syncopation or the rhythm of the way that he's singing, he sort of like brings it up to a precipice and like, oh, cliffhanger, and then finishes what he's saying. There's some of those very yes, exactly. Some of those really interesting changes that, and so those are some of the things, like even before you get into the content of the song, of the lyrics, that you're like, I feel like there are elements that are starting to hook us. And that almost sounds negative. That's not what I mean. Like there are things that are starting to catch our attention and be like, oh, this is something I want to keep listening to. And something makes me want to go back and listen to it again. And I think a lot of the time, even like, so when I'm driving is probably the time I'm most likely to just have music going and to just like hit repeat on a song when I'm driving. And so I'm not necessarily paying like full attention, but I'm still interacting with the music in some way. And I think that that's why I think it's partly important for us to consider, like, well, what are the themes that we're being presented with as Alex Warren here is singing? What are the things, as you said, this beautiful poetry, like this is not a simple song lyrically, like it is, it's pretty complex. And some of the vocal rhythms that go with it add to that complexity in really interesting ways. But I'm interested to know, like I wrote down a couple of themes or images or things that stood out to me. I want to say, as we talk about this, keeping in mind like artistic license, obviously, like there's space for artists to kind of do the thing that they need to do to communicate. And so, so it's interesting, some of the license that's been taken and some of the imagery that's being used. But I wonder for you, Lydia, like what's standing out to you as you're thinking of themes or images that have come up in this song?
Yeah, I mean, the delicate balance, I think, between using, I don't know, this text makes me feel really like a little like I wouldn't say that about a lover. I would only say that about Jesus, right?
Yeah, hopefully
you got
so.
Me kissing the ground of your sanctuary, return me to dust.
Yeah,
the angels are jealous of me, which feels curious. Things that I'm like, but also so understandable. Like if someone says like doesn't hold faith as something in their life, like there is this hole. And it's Jesus, right? So it makes so much sense that they find the love, like this romantic love that Jesus is to us too. And they put all the things that we put on him on that person. Like it's so understandable. And I understand why someone would use religious text to describe a a romantic love.
Yeah. That's interesting that talking about the relationship side of things in particular, that's one of the things that I wrote down. And I'm like, gosh, is there some of the language that's being used here that almost feels like it puts way too much weight and too high of expectation on what it's like to carry on, especially a long-term romantic relationship? You and I are both married and have been married to our spouses for a while now. And we've experienced like some of this is awesome and this is mundane and this is actually really frustrating. And it doesn't some of this song makes it feel like the right person makes you feel like you're up here having this religious experience, like some of our like fall conference or chapter camp kind of experiences that maybe we would have had on campus, where you walk away being like, that was the best moment I've ever had with God in my life. That's what it's like to be with the right person all the time. And I'm like, boy, that feels like a lot of weight for my significant other to yeah. Yes. I don't know. I don't know if you had any of those some of those sentiments as you were thinking through as well.
Yes. Or just like the kind of license you're giving that person, like verse 2, it talks about, at your altar, I will pray. You're the sculptor. I'm the clay. Like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful text to say to the Lord. Like
yes,
I'm the clay, you do your work. But like to say that to my husband, it's like, wow. Like we could get into that wife and husband thing, but like to say that to anyone would just be like, I don't know if I'm going to give you that much license over my life.
Yeah. Well, I know that I've sort of grown up in an era of people sort of calling into question how much should you change for the person that you are with, and saying like, excuse me, this line of like, you're the sculptor, I'm the clay, sort of saying like, I'm just completely open to being whoever you want me to be. And like, that actually feels like kind of you're walking maybe a dangerous line there of whatever it takes for us to stay together here. But like, it sounds beautiful. It sounds like it's really cool, but it's one of those is like, I think I should ask questions about that statement before I say this is something to apply to my own relationships. Yeah, exactly. I think the flip side of that with the relational side, or thinking about this in terms of a relationship, there is a statement here. Last line of verse 1, we'll make the mundane our masterpiece. And I'm like, that right there in my mind is a really beautiful sentiment to take into a relationship. Just in general, but like with a partner, with a significant other, to say like, sometimes your romantic relationship, whether it's somebody you're dating or somebody you've been married to forever, it gets mundane, but we are going to look at this in the big picture and say that this is a masterpiece in progress, and it will have flaws. It will be, it'll have little inconsistencies. It won't be perfect, but it will be beautiful. And that is I think that's a really fantastic sentiment to take with you as you think about relationships, whether it's with a person or with the Lord.
Yes, no, and agreed. And even as a masterpiece, like long-term thing, but even in the moment, I think something Greg, my husband, always said to me when we were dating, and even now that we're married, he's like, I love you so much because I feel like you make the most mundane things really fun. And I think when you're with like your person, it does feel that way. Like I can go do laundry with Greg and it's fun. I can go get a coffee and it's fun. Like just like when you're with a person that like your person, it should make everything feel like more than just like, oh, this is just a chore. It's like, no, I get to hang out with you the whole time,
Yeah. And and there's something to be said just in general of like, this is why it's important for us to live life with other people, because even something like Alex Warren sitting in the laundromat, like even that with another person can turn into something really meaningful. We actually just went on vacation as a family, and we had a hike that we were really looking forward to doing together. And we got about 10 or 15 minutes into the hike, and it was supposed to take us to the base of this really cool waterfall that we were excited for our two little girls to see. We were like, this will make it worth it. The bugs and the whatever, like it's going to be worth it to see this. They're going to think it's super cool. And we got about 10 minutes into this hike, and the trail was roped off. And it said, no, that you can't hike past this line. And if you just look, you can see, because there had been this massive like landslide that had washed out the trail, and it was completely unsafe to go. And so like we were all disappointed, and there had already been complaining on the way, and they were like, okay, now we got to turn around and go back. And 10 minutes isn't much, but 10 minutes with your 7-year-old and 3-year-old can be a long time if it's all complaining. But we said, as we were walking back, and our 7-year-old in particular was like, this is not like this isn't exactly how she said it, but like, this is a huge letdown. This is not what I was expecting. And I feel like we didn't get to do what we said we were going to do. And I said, you're absolutely right. But the important thing for us to keep in mind as we do this is that we did it together. Like we were together in disappointment. We were together in adventure. And so anyway, all that to say that there is something to be said for doing life, whether it's your high points, your low points, or the boring stuff in between. There's something really meaningful, even if it's ordinary, doing it alongside of somebody else.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So Lydia, as I look at this, you already mentioned this a little bit, but there's this line in every chorus about the angels up in the clouds will be jealous knowing we found something so out of the ordinary. Am I reading too much into this, or is that indicating that the angels hanging out A, with each other, and B, in the presence of God is ordinary? Because the angels will be jealous? Am I over-interpreting that?
No, I think that just if you think about it literally, it's a wild thing to say. But I almost think, I was thinking earlier, it's like we can't take it so seriously, because obviously, like, this feels like, to me, or even in the music video too, it's like that love at first sight kind of thing. I found someone who's so different than what I've experienced. So I guess I'm kind of taking the text at like everything's so magical and amazing and over the top when you're like in that phase of a relationship. But then we talk about how it's so poetic and well thought out. So it's like, well, if it's so poetic and well thought out, then I'm going to take him at that. So I think it's a little extreme for sure.
No, I like that. I think you're doing a good job of holding those things in tension. I think I can be pretty quick. I think especially when somebody's using language that it feels that is coming out of scripture, or that it feels like sort of a what's the word that I'm like a sacred, like, these are some sacred words that, especially when they are pointed at the Lord in particular, to take those and sort of point them at a human feels a little, like you said this earlier, like, I don't know. And that's one that when I think about it 5 seconds longer, then I think maybe, then, I want to give Alex credit here. Like, I want to assume that he's not trying to like steal people's attention away. I think what he's actually doing is saying, here is imagery that is so powerful and beautiful and meaningful, and this is like some of the best stuff that I can pull from to communicate some of what I'm feeling about here. So I want to acknowledge that I think it's probably actually a sort of a tip of the cap to like, gosh, this is what it's like to be in love with God. At least as it seems like the text is writing this out. I'm gonna use this to help describe some of the power of what I'm feeling. But at the same time, like being followers of Jesus, it does also feel like this is a place where maybe we need to keep things in appropriate tension. Is there a place where maybe we can use some of this terminology too flippantly? Because if we just think a little bit further, this is saying that in comparison to this human, God is just ordinary.
Right. Yeah. It makes so much sense. Man, because like God designed us, right, as husband and wife, to be like the God in his church. So like the woman's the church and God is God. And so it makes sense that even someone who doesn't know Jesus, say maybe he does, maybe Alex has, but like as someone, let's say someone doesn't, to describe a relationship that you're in love with somebody like that, because we're designed to describe it like that. Like it is the holiest, most sacred relationship you can hold on this side of heaven. So I can totally understand why someone would grasp at the text from scripture, or grasp at religious connotations to describe it, because it is. But like you're saying, I'm very wary to like use that text about someone else. And I'm looking at this text. It would be so easy. And I talked about this a lot when I did a lot of worship leading in contemporary Christian spaces. It would be so easy to take this text and make it a worship song like now. Like you'd have to change a couple lines. and I could just make this a worship song to Jesus, which is really cool. At the same, we would talk a lot about that in worship, where it was like, does this song even say Jesus' name? Because there's also a lot of worship songs that don't mention God, that are like love songs. When you sing it to God, it's a Christian song, but when it's not to God, it's like, is this a Christian song? There were definitely artists growing up where I was like, there were songs that would play on K-Love and then on like the regular radio, because you're like, it could go either way, you know? This could be about God or about a person. So
yes, which is also some fantastic writing. If somebody can write like a song that is like, my heart's desire is that this is a worship song to the Lord, but if other people want to take it and use it as a love song for their significant other, who am I to say that they
Let's make some extra cash, bro.
Yeah, exactly. There's something pretty cool about being able to be creative in that way. I've actually heard from like missionaries to like unreached people groups and things like that, as they're experiencing people who are wanting to follow Jesus, and specifically they're wanting to like worship God, and they've asked questions like, how do we worship? Because this is what we used to do. How do we do that now? And that they really did say, like, take the stuff that you used to do, like you don't have to. I mean, obviously, if it's like specifically directed at like false gods or whatever, maybe that's different, names them by name or whatever. But it's sort of like, take that same sentiment and those same kinds of things that you used to write about, and now write them in this spirit and write them in this direction for this God who loves you and saves you and has reconciled you to himself. And so I think that's interesting that you bring it up, that there is like, it is not that big of a leap between the love songs that we write for other people and the love songs that we could write to God, as far as like what it looks like to say some of those things. Especially, again, if we're returning to things that sort of ground us back in reality, of recognizing like there's just a certain level of this being mundane and everyday, ordinary kind of stuff. And how do we lean into a lifelong relationship with somebody when a lot of it really does feel mundane, ho-hum kind of life experiences? Lydia, other things for you that you've noticed that have stood out to you, whether it's individual lines or imagery or things like that stand out, and you say, hey, this is something that I thought was really interesting, whether it's something you're questioning or just like, oh, this is a really beautiful part of this. I'm looking at the lyrics. I'm off camera looking at the lyrics here.
Yeah, same. I think the one line in this, I'm like, I don't know exactly what you mean by that, is the line in the chorus, on the edge of your knife, staying drunk on your vine. I like get the staying drunk on your vine, but the on the edge of your knife, it's like, I mean, if we're talking like how he already basically was like, you know, you're the sculptor, I'm the clay. Is it literally like you could literally kill me and I'd be like, fine. Like, I don't, or is it?
The only thing that stands out to me is that then he follows up that line with staying drunk on your vine, which makes me wonder if this is like, is this sort of, you are the vine, we are the branches, some of that, like, what is that, like John 15 abiding language. And if the knife is almost like somebody coming across to like take, if you're staying drunk on your vine, I'm assuming he's referring to to wine, to grapes and things like that. Is it somebody actually coming through to like harvest the grapes off of the vine? And that's the only thing that I can think of. Like, I don't understand where the knife comes into play here. But if it's something in the realm of that same language of what's the word I'm looking for? How the vine dresser removes branches that are not producing fruit. And if he's trying to say, like, I swear, like, there's something really beautiful and powerful that's happening here, so don't cut it off. Keep this connection going, but I feel like I'm just on the edge of this not happening anymore. That's the best that I can come up with there. I don't know.
That makes more sense to me. And that even makes it more scripture oriented. It's very interesting. I know we emailed this slightly, but this song, after reading the text, I was like, this reminds me of Hosier's Take Me to Church.
Yes.
But yes. I can like low key, I feel like I respect this one more because I know that, because I've like looked into it, that the writing behind Take Me to Church is very anti-religion. So it's literally taking our text and being like, I'm going to make this about my significant other. Whereas I really think this one, in the spirit of it, seemingly to me, is really just like, how can I find language to describe this amazing person? And the most holy, sacred language is from our scripture. So I think that's the difference between the two for me, is like, I can almost not get behind this as like singing it really truly in my soul, but I can like respect it as like you're not trying to be disrespectful to the thing I believe in. So
I think I'm kind of landing in the same place where it feels like this is certainly not perfect, because I think from a Christian perspective, I would say, this is language that I would protect. But maybe somebody else is maybe Alex is looking at this and saying, this is super beautiful language and I want to incorporate it. And if nothing else, maybe it should be taken as a compliment. And that's pretty cool. That feels a little out of the ordinary, in my experience. Like in recent days, it feels more like, some of this language is used much more skeptically, or, what's the word that I'm looking for? Certainly not with a positive connotation. Sort of like, I think like what you're saying with Hosier's song, Take Me to Church, that's more, I'm going to use this language and it's actually sort of going to be a negative towards the church, and, saying where I'm finding salvation in this other person instead, because that isn't actually offering anything to me. I think you're right about that. And I think that it's still one of those things that's like, hey, we probably need to be thoughtful as we're singing and listening to these lyrics, but is there a place of saying like, wow, God, this is pretty cool that somebody would look at my relationship with you, the church's relationship with you, and say, this is worth explaining and describing the way that I love another person, because it's hard for me to find better imagery than this. And that is pretty cool, I think.
It is cool.
Yeah. So
it reminds
go
me,
ahead.
Sorry. At my church in New York, when I was living there, we had a lot of like musical theater artists.
Okay.
And for a brief, like Broadway people, and for a brief stint, the pastor was like, I want to draw them in via their music. And so what we would do is we would literally take theater pieces that like had a lot of these themes, like we're seeing here, that you could easily make a worship song and just tweak little lyrics and like make it a worship song and have it in the service, which was, as a theater person, I was like, this is weird to sing this, like not normal. But what an interesting challenge, or like something to even play with. Is like, if you're a person who like say doesn't like CCM worship music, or like doesn't like hymns, like what if you find songs that you love and you kind of rewrite and like sing them from a place of worship? Like maybe that would be super holy and a super sacred thing for you to do with the Lord in your own space.
Yeah, I think that's a really great thought. I got to do this at a large group once with InterVarsity, as we were leading worship, and it was meant to be sort of a like invite your friends who don't know Jesus or aren't necessarily comfortable at church, and we're going to curate a space that hopefully is meant to be more comfortable for them. I don't know how successful we were at that night, but I thought it was really fun that we took some popular songs of the day or that were sort of timeless, but had like very positive spiritual themes to them, and we played those in a worshipful sort of perspective, and that was really fun. It was fun to do it like that, and maybe it was more fun as an artist than it was for somebody listening. I don't know, or trying to sing along. I can see why it would also hang people up. I've had some of that experience that you're talking about as well, and those are pretty interesting experiences to get to have. Fun to do, but maybe challenging for some. So Lydia, thinking about our audience here, I think I have two sort of final questions for us to consider. One is there something final for our audience, thinking about as followers of Jesus, especially as we make these major transitions? What does this song do for us? Or is there something that we can take away from it, or something that we need to be mindful of? And then just in general, like from an artistic musical perspective, do you have a final word of encouragement that you would give to alumni in their first year of life after graduation? So, both of those things, I'm wondering about this song in particular, and then just big picture. Is there a word of encouragement?
Yeah. This song in particular, I think we touched a bit, just like, how can I go, like, really examine the things I'm listening to, the things I'm drawn to, and see if they're glorifying to the Lord, or if they're semi-glorifying, or if I could make them glorifying, or are they like feeding me in a gross way? Like, should I even be listening to this? Right. And like, that's super convicting. And that's something that some people can listen to certain things and some people can't. And it affects our spirits differently.
For sure.
But, when we were talking about doing this podcast today, I was thinking about music and the enemy in music. And, what's fascinating is Lucifer was the angel of music. Before Lucifer fell, like, he was the angel of music in heaven. And so I think he has a special pull on music. And I think that he uses it to draw us away from Jesus sometimes. And he knows it's so powerful. He knows it's so powerful, so he'll use it. And that said, like, we can take that power. The Lord made music, right? He asks us to worship him with music. I work in music every day. Like, I'm drawn to music because it's amazing. But that said, like, it holds a lot of power, and the enemy knows it holds a lot of power. So just being aware of, like, what are you putting inside you musically and lyrically? And I think sometimes we can be like, fine, I'll just listen to something that doesn't have lyrics and it'll be fine. Like instrumental music, and a lot of instrumental music, I think that is super safe. I mean, I'm a classical musician, so yeah, I listen to orchestra stuff all day. But I also think there is an intention. We talked about intention in this conversation about, like, in this song, we feel like the intention was actually to help describe an amazing feeling that the Lord put inside of us using his rhetoric. But in another song like Hosier, the intention's not at all to glorify God, or not at all to respect him. And I think there were composers that wrote even instrumental things that were not to honor God. It was actually like almost like as a slap in the face. So I don't even think you're safe all the time, like just being like, okay, just instrumental. But I think as believers, and I don't think I'm the only one, but I think as believers, we can kind of sense a spirit in music. I think you can listen to a song and your spirit can be like, I'm into that. I like, that's super fun. I have a lot of peace when I hear that, versus like, that feels unsettled. Like that, I feel like unsettledness in my spirit, and I don't know why it is, but maybe it's why it was written, or when it was written, or what's actually being said in the text. Maybe it's not even English. Maybe they're saying something you don't know is like, that's kind of not what I want to be putting inside me. But that's a long-winded way of saying, like, that music holds so much power, and you singing music holds so much power. Like, you are literally putting that into the universe, into the, the space you're in. And like, the Lord hears that, and the enemy hears that. Right. And so, like, whatever you're singing, it's like, do you mean that? Or, do you at least think the text is like worth you actually singing that out loud? So I don't mean this to be like a preach session, but I have noticed so much in my own life because I grew up in a home that was like, we just listened to K-Love. And so I felt like I didn't get very cultured in music. I listened to like big band and classical and theater and K-Love. And then like as an adult, I kind of like went and like explored myself. But in that journey, I would find, if I start my day with worship, it's different than if I start my day with pop. Not to say I'm not going to end my day with pop. Like, I'm going to drive home all day and like dance in the car, but I don't want to start my day there. So like, even like what time of day you're listening to these things, or what attitude you're going into listening to certain music, I think has a big effect on your spirit and like how you're going to go about your day or your life, or like your vision for your future, or whatever that is.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, as you said, music is a tool of discipleship, and you're going to be discipled one way or another, or maybe there could be sort of diverging paths for how you're being discipled in music, and it depends on how thoughtful you are about it, or whatever. And I mean, I enjoy the idea of music being something that is both an emotional, powerful experience, but also there being an opportunity for it to be intellectually stimulating about like what is actually going on in this song, and why is it something to just like full sail buy into, or something that I need to be careful with, or something that I need to just say, no, this is a great song, but I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to listen to it. And that we need to be thoughtful of those things, and that can be really fun. Like, even to just say, like, I wonder what it would be like to just, as you're driving to work one day or whatever, just to be like, Lord, will you sit shotgun with me while I turn on like sort of the Billboard Hot 100, and can we just listen through these songs together and discern, like, is this helpful, or is this just not worth our time together? And honestly, that's not just Billboard Top 100. We should probably be doing that with some of the worship music, with all of the worship music that we listen to, and be like, Lord, is this actually honoring to you, or is this just meant to be a stage piece? Song? Yeah, exactly. Is it all about me? Is it all about big production and and what's going on here? And we might be surprised which things actually sort of, which things rise to the surface as like, hang on to these. These are really good. Even if like maybe a follower of Jesus didn't write it. Like I want to believe that all truth, actual truth, is God's truth. And that means that like, if somebody latches onto something that's true and puts it out there for you, then it's true. Like, and that there are things that we can hold on to in that way. And, I really appreciate what you're saying about giving things time, and also knowing, am I more likely at particular times of day to be open and receptive? And if that's the case, what are the things that I need to be opening myself up to, because I am so receptive in the morning? Maybe it's, worship music is the thing that helps me like get centered on the Lord. And, but coming home, especially maybe after a hard day, like I just need some really upbeat pop music to get me, going, so I can wrap up my day well here. So I appreciate that very much. And I think that's good advice for our alumni to take with them as well. Lydia, this has been a lot of fun. I have very much enjoyed kind of working through this song with you. We had talked about going through a Pink Pony Club if we had time to do it. Maybe we'll save that for another episode. But this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for lending your expertise and your thoughtfulness and just your experience with music to talking through some of these things. I've really appreciated this.
Yes, thanks for having me back. It's so fun to get on here and do this. So yeah, it's been a blast.
Thanks for listening to After 4. This podcast is brought to you by the InterVarsity Alumni Relations Team, hosted and produced by John Steele, production assistance by Mike Zentera, edited by Caleb Leppert, and our After 4 theme music was written and performed by John Steele.